Let's talk about the first half of the 20th century. Man, what an age of contradictions. Humanity was moving forward at this incredible breakneck speed, but was it actually moving forward? Or was it in some ways moving backward? In this explainer, we're going to dive into that huge paradox, all through the eyes of A.C. Ward, who was analyzing it as it all unfolded.
And here it is, the whole conflict in a nutshell. On one side, you've got this incredible explosion of progress, total mastery over the physical world. Think about it, the engine, the airplane, even nuclear power. But at the very same time, Ward describes this deep hollowing out on the inside, a moral and spiritual collapse happening right underneath all that shiny new technology. So, that's the big question, isn't it? How on earth could these two things happen at once? How could a time of such amazing scientific wins also be a time of just profound social and spiritual chaos? To even start to get an answer, we have to go back and look at the world that was about to be completely torn down.
Okay, let's take a step back. Right before the 20th century kicked off, Ward paints this picture of the Victorian age as a house, a big, solid, sturdy house, built on what they were absolutely convinced were unshakable foundations. It was a world that made sense to them, a world of certainty, order, and authority.
Now, this mindset, it's probably pretty alien to most of us today. The Victorian spirit wasn't about skepticism. It was all about acceptance. Whether it was in religion, politics, or just family life, the voice of authority was pretty much taken as gospel. The instinct wasn't to poke holes or ask why. It was to nod along and confirm what you already believed. Okay, so pillar number one of this big, sturdy house was the home. The family structure, the way it was set up, wasn't just seen as a convenient tradition. No, it was considered something like a final, perfect revelation. It was the absolute bedrock of their entire society. Pillar number two, the empire. And you gotta understand, for them, the British Empire wasn't just a political thing or a phase in history. They saw it as a permanent feature of the world, like a mountain range or an ocean, something established forever. And holding it all up, the third and final pillar was the Christian religion. This was the moral glue, the spiritual framework for absolutely everything else. These three pillars, home, empire, and church, held up a world that, to them, felt completely stable. So you see the picture, right? The Victorians couldn't even imagine a world where these things might disappear or be replaced. To them, this wasn't just how things were, it was how things were always meant to be. But oh boy, was that about to change. And fast.
And then, the turn of the century hits, and a totally new way of thinking starts to blow through society. Its message was super simple but absolutely radical. Question everything. This wasn't some gentle shift. It was a full-on assault on the very foundations of that Victorian house.
And this quote from a George Bernard Shaw play just nails the new attitude. It was like a trumpet call for change. The argument was, look, we're happy to scrap our old steam engines when something better comes along, so why are we clinging to these old rusty ideas about morality and society? For the first time, a really aggressive, widespread challenge was being thrown at all the old certainties. And this really shows you what that felt like for an ordinary person. It wasn't exciting for everyone. For a lot of people, it was terrifying. Imagine the solid ground you've stood on your whole life, suddenly feeling like it's just crumbling away beneath your feet. It created this huge spiritual vacuum. So this cultural earthquake didn't just shake up society and politics. It split the world of art and literature right down the middle. And the big question became, what's art even for anymore? Who is it supposed to be for?
And basically, two rival camps pop up. On one side, you've got the art for life's sake crew, guys like Shaw and H.G. Wells. For them, literature was a tool, something you used to create social and political change. It was for everyone. But on the other side, you had the art for art's sake movement, with folks like the Bloomsbury Group, who argued that, no, art is about beauty and aesthetics, and it's really for a small, sophisticated, intellectual elite.
And if you had to pinpoint the exact moment the break happened, it would be 1922. That's the year James Joyce's Ulysses and T.S. Eliot's The Wasteland came out. I mean, these were monumentally important works, but they were also incredibly complex and difficult. This was the moment literature kind of left the main highway of communication and went off on its own private winding path, leaving the common reader behind.
And here's T.S. Eliot himself basically justifying this whole thing. He's saying, hey, what's the problem if high literature is only for a small, fastidious public? He's arguing that it's actually disorderly to think that great art has to be for everybody. This was a radical idea, a huge departure from the past.
Okay, so the old Victorian house is a pile of rubble. The artists have gone off into their own little world. What's left? What kind of society grows out of that? Well, welcome to what Ward called the mass age, a brand new world with a new kind of person right at the center of it.
Early in the century, there was this really optimistic idea from writers like H.G. Wells about the common man. This was a celebration of the average person, the little man, as a unique individual with his own personality and character, someone who could be the hero of the story.
But that idea didn't last. After the wars, something new and much darker took its place: mass man. The focus isn't on the unique individual anymore. In this new world of massive states and huge systems, the individual becomes, as Ward puts it, just a punched card in a giant machine. Your individuality gets lost in the crowd.
And you can see this paradox big time in the welfare state that was built during this period. I mean, look at the promises on the left. Full employment, social security, high wages, fair shares for everyone. Sounds great, right? But then look at what Ward argued was the reality on the right. Instead of happiness, he saw sullen discontent, rising crime, and a deep feeling of social rootlessness.
So what did this new affluent society actually look like on the ground? Well, here are some of the key features that stood out to Ward. A culture that almost seemed to worship immaturity. A deep, widespread contempt for any kind of authority. The explosion of advertising, which sold status instead of quality. And this strange new passion for living your life out in the open, for public exhibitionism.
So, what's the final takeaway? What's the inheritance we get from this entire era of upheaval? Well, according to Ward's analysis, it's not exactly a happy one. The legacy of smashing all those old certainties wasn't just freedom and enlightenment. It was something much, much darker.
He describes a world that's just swimming in moral and mental frustration, because when you lose your anchors, you're just adrift. And he points to the boom in psychiatry as a major symptom of this, a new assumption that almost everyone is mentally unwell, that, as he puts it, nothing but abnormality is normal. It's like the whole world has become a vast clinic full of patients.
And that leaves us with one last big thought. A.C. Ward, writing from the middle of all this, saw a world that had lost its foundation, a world unmoored. And the question for us, looking back from where we stand today, is pretty direct. Have we, in all the decades since, managed to find a new rock to stand on? Or are we, still living in the ruins?